AM 1170. The Answer, San Diego.
Hey, it's Steve. We are back. We're back with Bill Leversee, and we're going to touch on a few things today, but one of the things that I wanted to really drive as far as the correlation behind who Bill is, so you can get to know why he's such a great person to call about insurance, is because of the history that he also has as a team player in rugby. And one of the things he shared with us before we started the show was his nickname is the Chief. So that's an amazing nickname. I love that nickname. And I wanted to share with you, in high school, one of my really good friends, Bill Fithen, was a massive guy. The dude was just like a block.
Yeah.
It's like, you should come out and play rugby. And he had told me a story about rugby before that really turned me off to rugby. And it was what he did. And he said, I was in a scrum and I bit a guy's ear off. And I'm like, what? So needless to say, I didn't want to play rugby. I played football and soccer instead, but I was just like, who's eating whose ear in a scrum? Come on. So that's not what the insurance world is going to be like with Bill. He's going to take care of you, but that's my story with rugby. So I really wanted to just open this up and where you can drive the correlation home for who you are as a leader, because as a team player, every team also, you'll have emerging leaders on those teams at any given point, and you work in unison. So please tell our listeners about your approach to commercial insurance and who you are still as a coach and as a developer of people in the rugby world, and how you're there for your, let's just call it your partners, right? Not the people that you serve, but people that are partnered with you. So I'd love for our listeners to know more about Bill Leversee and your approach in insurance and your correlation to sport.
Well, thanks for that kind and gracious introduction.
Absolutely.
I am flattered and humbled. One thing I've always wanted to be to people ever since I was a young kid was I wanted to be their go-to guy.
Yeah.
So as that relates to insurance, insurance is a necessary. It's necessary to business. It's necessary to you as a personal to protect your own assets and protect against any liability that you might have. So as it relates to business, I have become the go-to guy for insurance. So when someone is either starting a business or perhaps their business is mature, they want to come to someone who can quarterback the team, can quarterback and advise the business owner what insurance he needs to get, what limits, how he should gear, how he should design his portfolio of insurance to get him the optimal blend of coverage and premium. And typically what happens is when someone's starting off early in business, they'll need to get a certain amount of coverage. They'll get it, and then what happens is their business grows and expands.
Right.
Typically, unless the insurance quarterback is constantly monitoring and gathering feedback and adjusting as the business grows, what happens is there's a little bit of a set it and forget it mentality, because sometimes a broker's off chasing some other new business. And again, I'm big on communication. So communication, I think, is key, is to understand where the business is trending, where it's going, so that you can make adjustments. Insurance is like a snapshot in time, and it needs to move and grow and be paralleling and tracking along with where the business is happening.
So tell me this, like what you're saying makes so much sense to me as the business does grow. And it's not that we get complacent or we forget about our insurance, but we're so busy focused on our day to day that we're not thinking about what's protecting us because we think that we're covered, right?
That's right.
So how do you, as a professional that works hand in hand with the businesses that trust you, help them revisit if that's where they're, let's just put it this way. This is good for today. This isn't good for tomorrow. How do you step back into their world occasionally? What's the frequency? How do you help them monitor that stuff? Because they're not going to take it on, right? It's not their day-to-day thought.
So good question, Steve. The way that the way that I do it is remaining in contact, and usually there's a quarterly checkup, check-in,
Yep.
right? So understanding what's happening with the business. A lot of my clients are people that I know personally. I know a lot of successful entrepreneurs and some successful families from my involvement with high school and national team rugby here in San Diego. We are sponsors of Tech Coast Angels, which is a group here in San Diego. They're the largest Tech Coast chapter in California.
Can you elaborate on that? What is Tech Coast?
Oh, so Tech Coast Angels is an angel organization. There's 7 chapters throughout Southern California, and they're a group of successful entrepreneurs and technical folks and folks in the life science industry that have been successful in their own right, had a successful exit, and then they come back and they help young portfolio companies get off the ground.
That's
and get a start, and they raise money. And so we're very involved in that organization. We attend regular meetings, so it's once or twice monthly. So I'm constantly in front of my clients, which promotes communication, and that's how I best stay in front of my clients and what's happening.
So there are some bigger firms out there, right? And you can just name some of the names that are playing commercials. And your company is Falcon West. So I know with some of the bigger companies out there, they can be a little bit more, let's just call it in-a-box thinking, right? So if you can also share with our listeners some of the advantages of working with Falcon West over an in-the-box type of thinking module, that this is, so-and-so insurance company, we just have to follow this model, versus, hey, we can do this, this, and this for you. If you can let our listeners know what some of the subtleties and those differences might be that could benefit them as well, I think that'd be advantageous to them.
Yeah, so great question. You call it in-the-box thinking. We like to call them big box carriers.
Okay.
So that would be something like Travelers, State Farm, Farmers.
I didn't want to say
Allstate.
the names, but you sure, go ahead.
Yeah, AAA, Wawanesa, Geico. And so they are good, solid carriers. They're all A-rated. They put out a quality product. However, you have to ask yourself, who is the quarterback behind this, and who is telling me what to get? The analogy I use is if you're getting a Dell computer and you call up Dell and you say, okay, I need a desktop. Oh, what type of desktop would you like? I don't know. There's so many different versions, and they can build your machine for you.
Right.
Yet it's unless you know exactly what specs to get and how to build it and what components to go inside it, what you receive from Dell, a few days later, may not be well designed for what you're trying to achieve.
I think that's a great analogy. I haven't heard that analogy put that way before, but that's a really simple analogy for the listeners to follow.
Yeah,
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so a big box carrier typically has what we like to call a one-size-fits-all policy, right? And I see this happen all the time. I recently had a client, very successful real estate. He owns a number of shopping centers, and he had his college roommate who's a State Farm agent, and he now owns 2 homes, one in Rancho Santa Fe, one in Del Mar, west of Highway 5, I might add, right on Highway Coast 101.
A couple more dollars.
And he really wasn't aware of their specialty carriers that specialize in homes that are valued at a replacement cost well over $1 million. And the client experience with a policy that is designed for high-value homes was huge, because what happened is just a few weeks ago, he had gone to Europe, and when he came back, he found out that there was a water leak in his basement entertainment area. He came down to be in 4 inches of water across the whole part of his basement, and he was absolutely thrilled with the claim experience. The emails that we were getting back from him was saying, "I'm so happy to be a part of this carrier."
So let me expand on this then. So you're saying that you're also in the personal, not just in the commercial world for insurance?
Yeah, I probably glazed over that.
Yeah.
Yet I serve where I operate the best and where our firm does really well is for entrepreneurs, business owners,
Okay.
chief level officers that are running a smaller business that when they need help, they want to be able to pick up the phone and pick up that trusted advisor, which for me, I'm the go-to guy for insurance.
You're the chief.
That's right. So when they pick up that phone, they want to talk to me directly. Of course, they might not always be talking. I might put them in touch with a claim adjuster or someone who is managing that process. Yet I am the quarterback. So that level of security and confidence that they feel is paramount.
So that fits into our world as well, where Paul is a lender in the residential space, and you've definitely got other institutions where you call in and you're a number. So every time you call in, it's just, hey, what's the number that you have? And then you get John, Joe, Jane, Jack, whoever it might be, right? And there's a different experience in that. But what's interesting, and again, I wasn't sure how much you do in the residential world, but now that you do, you know this well, that you cannot purchase a house without insurance, right? Your bank will just not allow it. You need evidence of insurance.
100%.
And what I find fascinating as well is how many carriers will fall off if you're in a high fire zone, right? I always forget if it's 300 feet or 300 yards. Feet. So 300 feet, thank you, of being away from some sort of a slope or things like that. And then some of my clients will panic when they go, oh, I went to AAA and they won't cover me. And I have all my stuff with them and they will not insure my policy on my house. So again, I don't know if Falcon West does or does not for fire, but I know that it's incredible what happens when it's outside of the box, right? When it doesn't fit the mold, what happens?
That's right.
And how you can be nimble to help them figure it out or give them the best suggestions. Even if your let's just call it your carrier, your brokerage cannot assist, you're going to give them the next best thing. Because unfortunately, we all have rules and regulations, right? Just like in lending, if they don't fit whatever your debt to income ratio or things like that, I'm sorry, we can't do that, but maybe you go over here. And that's typically if you go to a big bank like Chase, Wells, where they're going to have different rules and different overlays, and they might not be able to get you in where you go to an offbeat lender that you've never heard of, but yet they follow the same rules. And they're like, that's not a problem for us. So I find that a really tricky thing in the United States, because in Canada, again, I'm not trying to go back there, but in real estate when I was selling there, the rules were the rules were the rules. That was it. Every single lender was the same. I don't think it really changed for insurance carriers over there, but I was never really doing a deep dive in insurance. But the more I know here of when it doesn't fit a mold, holy smokes, man. It can get super limiting and super expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where the quarterback makes the difference.
Yeah.
You have
right.
a kid in a call center, or you got the chief working for you, putting it together. I mean, that's the difference right there, is you're able to identify and make those things happen that somebody else just doesn't have the experience, the skills, or maybe even the resources to do.
Or they're limited. Somebody from Wells only has a finite number of products that they can work with, whereas someone who's independent, like you, Paul, has a number of different avenues and options for your lender.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to break here right away. And when we come back, we're just going to talk about some of the options that Bill can just give our listeners ideas when it comes to insurance from Falcon West. I'm Stephen Wener of Whissel Realty, brokered by EXP on 1170 AM, The Answer.